The title of this podcast is Your Lower Self Will Never Take You Where You Want to Go. This really resonates with me that all the things that I really wanted after I peel back, like the things that I was striving to get, the college degree, a job with the opportunity to advance, nice house and car, and all those things. What were they really about? It's really about me being okay. Like I really wanted to be okay all the time. So, but in striving solely fixated on those things, that when I had them or achieved them, I wasn't okay. Maybe for a moment, like, hey, I reached this accomplishment. But as soon as that moment was over, I was already thinking about what's next. And that became my new obsession. So I was trading one obsession for the next. The same thing in relationships, like what do you really want? I want to be happy. What Michael Singer says is if you want to be happy, don't pray for a partner, pray to be happy. That way, if you have a partner, you're happy. If you don't have a partner, you're happy. You know, if you want to be fulfilled at work, don't pray for a certain job or a certain company to make you fulfilled at work. You want to be fulfilled at work no matter what the work is. I think about this in terms of my lower self is that part of me that is at the effect of my fears, my personal minds, fears and desires. And that also includes my heart. But I'm the consciousness that's behind that, watching my mind have this internal dialogue, watching my heart skip a beat. Sometimes it skips a beat when it sees something it likes and wants, or sometimes it sinks into the pit of my stomach when it's something that I don't want. But I'm just the observer of all of that. And literally, I can appreciate it. Without being caught in the grip of it to where I think that it's me. There is opportunity. There's a space there between those things happening. And if I can work on mastering that, I can have a really amazing life. Because if I don't, then I will reap the consequences or the results of, caving in or submitting to my lower self. So an example that is, if I want to be healthy, that is a goal of the higher self, is to be healthy, to be well, to be peaceful. But if I want to be healthy, let's say physically, my lower self will say, have a drink or eat that unhealthy food. But that's really not what I want. I don't really want the food. I want to be healthy. So if you're really clear of the distinction or the difference between your lower self and you won't fall prey to some of those temptations. Another one is, I mentioned, if I want a healthy relationship, if I truly want a healthy relationship, then my lower self will actually tell me to hold resentment and punish my partner for the things that they do, or I think that they're doing, or the things that they might do. That's what I'll do. But I said I want a healthy relationship. My lower self is not interested in me having a healthy relationship. So here's an example. Here's something that you can do to really demonstrate how committed you are to a healthy relationship. For example, let's say that your partner does something that bothers you. Do the opposite of what your mind tells you to do. Your mind will tell you to be upset about it, create a narrative about it, really become, committed to that narrative that they don't listen, they don't care, they don't value me, they take me for granted, whatever it is that the lower self says. And whether it's true or not, you know, it doesn't help you have what you really want to have, which is have a healthy relationship. And part of that healthy relationship is doing the things that are within your power to create the possibility for a healthy relationship. So do the opposite of what your mind tells you to do. It says hold resentment or say something back that's cutting or passive. Instead, you go in there and say, hey, listen, what can I do to help you make your day better? Can I bring you something to drink? Can I make you a meal? How can I lighten your load? Or you can go in and say, hey, listen, thank you for all you do for our family or for our relationship, or acknowledge them for how hard they work. Whatever the case is, there's a way that you can have actions and behaviors that are consistent with wanting to create a healthy relationship. The same thing with the food analogy that I gave just a second ago, that example, is that if you're really about being healthy, then are your actions lining up with that? Your lower self will say, hey, listen, stay up a few hours, have some more drinks, don't pass up those sweets, eat this. But are those actions and behaviors consistent with what it is you say that you really want? That is healthy behavior that's aligned with their higher self. So for me, I want to really use every moment to let go of my lower self so that I can have these things. So I do a lot. I do opposite of what my lower self says to do. If my lower self is complaining, I observe it. And if I want to say something back, I say no comment. I am just wanting to create the space to be loving and kind. That's the space that I'm constantly working on holding every step of the way. I had an opportunity yesterday in which I was being called to task about something at work. And I remember going into the meeting thinking, like, this meeting, they asked to have it in person. There's a likelihood that this particular subject is going to be brought up, and it could have been handled a different way. Now, I didn't have experience in it, but it still could have been handled in a different way. And so so this whole experience has turned out to be a learning opportunity for me. And so as the leader was asking me these really pointed questions, my lower self was really getting into a defensive posture, ready to defend and to explain, and to kind of very quickly create this person to be an enemy and treat this leader as such. But I'm not about that. Like, nothing good will come out of that. And I know it. And my mind wants to say, well, listen, if this is documented, then it could hurt your career advancement. Others could find out, about this. And it wasn't something that was crazy and grievous. What it was it had to do with the budget. And so I was working on a project that the cost of the project exceeded the money that was allotted for it. Now, the thinking before is that another leader said that those funds would be coming. Well, you don't count those chickens or those eggs until those chickens have hatched. And so, lesson learned. I hadn't had this experience before, but I didn't go into explaining or defending why the situation is the way it is. And as my mind started to talk about all the ways that taking ownership or accountability for this would not be in my best interest, I did the exact opposite. I apologized for it, told them this is the learning experience. I appreciate them bringing this up to me, and that I'm willing to do, what it takes, even if it means using my own money to level set where the shortfall is. And that's the exact opposite of what my mind wanted. But what do I want? I want to be turned on at work all the time. I don't want to be working with coworkers that I resent, not because of what they have done or what my mind has told me that they're doing, but because that's not who I am. I want to keep an open heart to everybody. And that is without exception. It is unconditional. So I do things that are aligned with that. And what's funny about it, or interesting about it, that if you do the opposite of what your mind or your lower self is telling you to do, the exact opposite of any of that is what the higher self will do, what you at your very best will do. It will be after you become upset with your children. It will be, you will have the capacity, after an event has happened that you would normally be upset with your children, you will have the capacity to take a moment to compose yourself and to respond in a very thoughtful way. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't some kind of consequence for the behavior that's happened. No, that can still happen. But what will be different is that you will be calm and peaceful as you go through this with your child. That's a whole different way of doing it. It's a difference of being, your mind telling you that you have a right to be upset with your significant other, but you keep an open heart with them. You're not withholding love and affection and connection from them. On the contrary, you keeping all of that available to your significant other with an open heart. So, again, the title of this podcast was Your Lower Self Will Never Take You Where You Want to Go. So really think about where you want to go. Make it independent of life situations being a certain way, you getting the things that you need to get that are on the outside, or what people do or don't do. Make it about what you want and cut out all the middleman out of any of that. And if you do that, what you'll find is that your lower self will not be dictating your life experience, but what will be dictating it is your alignment with consciousness. That's a better path.